catch up and rewatch any parts that you kind of want to see. The chat capacity is always available to you. So if you have any questions or comments or just want to say anything or share any resources, pop them in there and then I'll share those with you as well after the fact. I'm just going to hand over to Braden, who will do the acknowledgement of country, and then we'll kick off onto the important part of the day, which is all about your funds and what you can spend it on. And I'm sure everybody's very excited for today. So over to you, Braden.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Braden Cockcroft. My pronouns are he, him, and I'm a Noongar man from WA in my second year as a scholar with Pinnacle. In the spirit of reconciliation, the Pinnacle Foundation acknowledges the traditional custodians of the country throughout Australia and their connections to land, sea, and community. We pay our respect to their elders past, present, and emerging, and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples today. Thank you.
Thanks, Braden. So now I'm just going to pass over the session to both Danny Burns, who is the Executive Manager, Customer Service Network Events at CommBank, and Sophie Elau, our Financial Accountant, and they will talk to you about all of the spending side of things with your debit card and everything like that. So feel free to ask any questions. Over to you, Danny. I think Danny was having some troubles logging in. I'll just check in and see where Danny's at. 1 second.
While we're doing that, Sophie, might you like to sort of introduce yourself and explain what you do with the foundation while we're waiting to get Danny?
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. My name's Sophie Elau. I'm the financial accountant at the Pinnacle Foundation. I've been with them for about 3 years now, so I've seen a few cohorts of scholars come through, which is always really exciting. So I really just want to welcome you all and let you know that we're here to support you for this great journey that you're going to be having with the Pinnacle Foundation.
So while Paula is getting Danny, Sophie, are you happy to go ahead with your sort of portion of the presentation?
I certainly can.
So Danny's just going to join on his phone because he couldn't hear us, so he will be with us in a moment.
Okay, well, I might just hold off and wait for Danny then.
And I'll just note again, good morning, Andrew. Andrew's with us again this morning. And if anyone has any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat. If you have any other questions that are maybe a bit more personal or anything, please feel free to email me, particularly when it comes to how you spend your funds. If you're more comfortable, you can email me during the day and I'll get back to you. And I think, Paula, do we think we're nearly ready to go?
Paula, just to let you know, Danny's joining using the wrong link. You had 2 invite links, so can you resend it to Danny? I just tried to, but he's joining in the wrong one. I can see him joining in a separate one.
You're right, Shannon. It wouldn't be a good Teams catch-up if there wasn't a technical glitch. It looks like we have Danny. Danny, are you able to hear us?
Yes, I can. Good morning.
Excellent. And we can hear you.
All right, fantastic. Don't you just love technical issues on a Sunday morning? But anyway, that's okay. Paula, did you want me to kick off?
That'd be great. So I'm just going to share my screen. If you can you all see Danny's presentation?
Yes.
Okay, Danny, just let me know when you're ready and I will.
Yeah, I'm good to go. Sorry.
Beautiful.
Good to go. Do you want me to go? Sorry. Or are you gonna?
Perfect. Can you see your presentation up on my screen?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
I can.
Shall we just
Ready.
maybe just introduce Danny? Just Danny is one of the two co-chairs of Commonwealth Bank's Unity Network, which is Commonwealth Bank's LGBTIQ+ and ally network. Commonwealth Bank has been a principal partner of the Pinnacle Foundation for many years, and we are incredibly grateful for the sustained support that they provide, including 6 named scholarships which Commonwealth Bank fund each year. So Danny, thank you for joining us this morning. We'll hand over to you now.
Thank you so much, Andrew, and excuse me, apologies again, everybody, for the technical difficulties this morning. Before I begin, I just want to acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands on which I'm meeting today, which is the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, and extend my respect to elders past, present, and emerging, and extend that to all of the traditional owners of the lands on, that you're all meeting on today. So as Andrew introduced, my name is Danny. I'm one of the co-chairs of Unity, and my pronouns are he, him. And I'm here to talk a little bit about the partnership between Pinnacle and CommBank, and then I'll hand over to the lovely Sophie, who will take you through how you will be able to access funds for your scholarship. So it's an absolute pleasure to be here and to talk to you all this morning. Congratulations to you all on your scholarships. And we know that obviously tertiary education is something that can be quite prohibitive. So it's great that we're able to provide this support. One of the things that we looked at very early on with CommBank was who we're going to partner with, and Pinnacle was a foundation that it gelled so nicely with what our values were, what our purpose was as an organisation. So it seemed like a very good link, and it has been a partnership now for, I think, Andrew, it's about 9 years now. So a little bit.
That's right. Yep.
Yeah, just 1 year longer than Unity has actually been around for. So we have been kind of together for some time, which is great. The goals of the partnership are really to take an active role in supporting LGBTI+ youth by providing, and CommBank provides 6 scholarships per annum. And by doing so, supporting your financial well-being, as I said, we really understand the burden of tertiary education and the prohibitive costs associated with that. And then finally, to provide opportunities for you to develop and grow and ultimately meet any of the personal, professional, financial and career goals that you may all have. So if we just jump to the next slide, I'll just tell you a little bit about Unity. We are celebrating our 10th birthday in a couple of weeks' time, which is going to be fantastic. We're actually holding a charity ball, and outside of the partnership that we have with Pinnacle, we'll also be contributing any proceeds to Pinnacle and another foundation. So just again, just shows that strength of the partnership and the values that we both hold quite strongly. Quite recently, we've refreshed our strategy and increased our focus on regional and rural communities. In the past, we feel Unity has been a little bit concentrated on the major cities, but we really want to get out, and we're now sponsoring different Pride events across the country, such as Broome and Tas Pride and Adelaide. So really looking forward to rolling those out this year. Our partnership, as I said, has been around for 9 years, and we've just negotiated in late 2021 a new 3-year agreement and doubled the contribution. That will mean that we've actually contributed over $1 million and supported 50 scholars since our partnership began. So we're really proud of that, and as I said, you know, we really understand how difficult and you know how prohibitive costs can be. So any help that we can provide at all, we are absolutely stoked to be able to do. Just some final notes. Unity and CommBank are incredibly proud of this long partnership. As I said, we've been together now for 9 years, and hopefully it will be another 9 or more. We're really committed to supporting LGBTI youth, especially those who face discrimination and abuse. And through the scholarships that we at Commonwealth Bank and of course many of the other partners Pinnacle are working with, we hope that we make a real difference to your lives and help you overcome challenges and realise your full potential. So good luck with everything, and we hope we look forward to hearing how you're progressing with your studies. You know, it's an amazing opportunity that you've got, so you know, take it with both hands and run at it as hard as you can. It's you know, it's an amazing opportunity for you. So thank you so much from the Commonwealth Bank, and I'll hand over to you, Sophie, and if you'll talk a little bit about how they can, how the scholars can access the funds.
That's right. Thanks, Danny. Great to hear all the wonderful work that Unity's doing. Well done. Well, welcome everyone. My name's Sophie Alal. I'm the financial accountant at Pinnacle. My pronouns are she and her. And I just wanted to start off by saying congratulations to all of our fantastic scholars. We're so excited to have you on board, and we're really looking forward to supporting you all through the journey that you've got ahead. Okay, so first of all, I'd like to just run through the key points that I'll be covering off in my presentation today. So we'll be looking at the contract of excellence, your debit card and the conditions of use, scholarship payments, and what those payments are used for, being the educational and the wellbeing expenses, keeping receipts, approvals and cash withdrawals, and finally budgeting and support, where to go to for support. So by now you should have all read the Contract of Excellence, which is really just a contract between yourselves and Pinnacle, and it just is really just a high-level contract regarding the agreement between us and yourselves. And on one side, we're providing you with this great scholarship, and on the other hand, I guess there's some responsibilities that come with that, and they're the conditions of use, maintaining receipts, just keeping the communication really open between the parties so that we can support you where needed. And of course, we want to hear about your achievements and how things are going as well. And completing of 10 hours community service. So I'll go into that in a bit more depth in the next slide. Paula, if you can just flick to the next one, please. So the scholarship payments, so the first year's $8,000 and the subsequent years are $6,000. And the reason for that is because we recognise that at the start, when you first get off to uni or tertiary education, that you're going to have a lot more expenses in that first year, whether it's, you know, setting up your laptop, getting all your textbooks or your online books. So that's why we make it a little bit higher in the first year. And similarly, we split the payment between the 2 semesters. So you get 60% in semester 1 when you first start off, and then once you've got to semester 2, then the balance is paid. And it's, again, it's a little bit higher because generally at the start of the year, the costs might be a little bit higher for you. So, so that's the scholarship payments. So the scholarship payments are split into like a 50-50 ratio. So generally it's all for educational expenses, but we do allow up to 50% for wellbeing costs because we recognise that as part of the support in getting the scholarship, that's an important area that you may need to spend money on just to support you through your journey. So that's why we allow up to 50% on the wellbeing costs and the balance on education. So you can go higher on the education. And the sort of costs that would be included would be anything to do with technology. So that includes the hardware as well as the software. Public transport, so getting to and from uni or anywhere else that you may need to go that's educational related. Any books, stationery, textbooks, photocopying, that sort of thing. Fees, so fees relating to your university course, and that also includes your HECS fees as well. Uniform for vocational training, tools of trade, tutoring, so that could be face-to-face tutoring or online tutoring, which is getting quite popular now. Any registration, so if you need to register with a medical board or the like, that's also covered. And any placement costs, but these need to be sort of discussed and agreed with your scholar. So it's quite broad, the educational expenses. And then wellbeing and living expenses, as I said, no more than 50% of your scholarship payment. And that can include all sorts of things like medications, chemist expenses, doctors and the like, dental, optical. Living expenses would be anything like utilities, rent or groceries. So just gives you that little bit of extra support just to get through, because we know it can be pretty tough while you're studying. So each year, Pinnacle Foundation is audited. So as part of that audit, we have to supply receipts for any expenditure that we have, and this also covers the scholar expenditure. So it's really, really important that that everyone maintains receipts for all of their expenditure. They can be either electronic receipts or hard copy receipts, but just file them away somewhere, because when the audit happens, there'll be like random checks of some of these expenses, and we may need to go to you and just ask you for a copy of the receipt. And generally the turnaround times can be fairly short, like within a few days or a week, because that's the time period that the audit will happen over. So before the audit, we'll give you a heads up of when it's happening. So you know what's coming up, so you can be prepared. But just please, during the year, just pop aside those receipts, because you may be asked for them. Exclusions, there are just a few general exclusions or things we need to cover off on, and some of the exclusions are things like general clothing, taxi and Uber fares that are not related to your education. And as far as cash withdrawals, you can do a cash withdrawal on your card, but we really try to discourage it. And if you need to do a cash withdrawal, it's probably best to talk to Laura about it first, just to get an approval. And then obviously we need a receipt for whatever that cash is then spent on. And the other thing is, if you do have to do a transfer, like if it's a rent or something like that, if you can please just put a notation in the description, so that it sort of just gives us a bit of a heads up, as well as what that expense is for. So I guess in all of this, we just want to stress that communication is key. And if you're not sure about anything, it's probably best just to come back and ask us first. Usually things are quite okay, and but it's just worth just having that discussion first. So, and then finally, just budgeting and support. It's great to have a budget if you haven't already. There's some really fantastic tools on the CBA website, and also moneysmart.gov.au. But if you've got any further queries, we'll have some time at the end of this webinar, but also longer term, just please go to your Scholar Manager. Or if it's in relation to NetBank or any sort of banking facilities, then the CBA hotline is probably, or your local branch is probably your best port of call. But that's all from me for the moment. So I just want to wish you all the best of luck, and please reach out if you've got any questions. Thank you.
Sophie, we have a question from Jay about whether things like screenshots of bank statements can count as receipts for things without paper receipts, for example, rent payments. Is that the best way for scholars to provide receipts for audit purposes and things?
So generally we require a tax invoice. So a copy of the bank statements isn't really going to be sufficient for the audit. So if it's something like rent, I don't know if you're in a shared house, you might be able to get the key person just to write you out a receipt, or you might be able to go to the real estate agent and ask for a tax invoice. But usually a receipt needs to have the name of the company or the person who's providing the service and the amount and a description and the date, ABN if it's a registered business.
Yep. Now, I hope you don't mind, Sophie. I'll try and just facilitate the questions as they come through. I think Theo was next. Theo, you had a question?
Yeah, so I have to attend like a compulsory placement in the middle of the year where we arrange our own accommodation. And so last year, I think we just booked like an Airbnb. Am I allowed to sort of use money for that, or?
Yeah, if it's for a placement, that's fine. Yep. We just need a copy of the receipt. So if just keep a copy of the receipt. You don't need to send it to us at the time, but if you can just keep a record of that, and maybe just give us a heads up when it's occurring. So when we see it come through, we know that it's in relation to your placement, but that should be fine.
Yep. Cool.
And then Charlie asked about tax invoices for things like groceries, but Ali has jumped in and given us the answer. So when it comes to things like groceries, you don't need a full official tax invoice. A receipt that you would get from the grocery store is sufficient. I think for some things with if you shop at Woolworths or Coles, you can now opt for online receipts as well, and or paper receipts. So you can opt out of paper receipts. So for some people that might make it easier for you to then file it away if you know that you've got electronic copies. We would encourage you to try and stay on top of your receipts throughout the entire year, so there is not a panic if you're chosen to be audited. So just keep in mind things like that as to what is going to make it the easiest for you. And if you do have paper receipts, take photos of them, even that you can then save to a folder on your computer or something like that.
Yeah.
So we can easily get them.
But I might just mention there that you don't need to send through the receipts as you're doing the spending. If you could just store them somewhere, and if we require them, then we'll request them at the time of the audit, but we'll give you a heads up as to when the audit's occurring.
Sorry to interrupt. My raise hand thing isn't working, and for some reason when I try and type in the chat it doesn't send. But I just had a few questions, if that's all right. I was wondering if, so for me, because I'm not doing a trade, I'm doing law, and like formal business attire I don't actually have, and for like placement internship purposes, would that be covered under work attire? Because it's something you can wear outside of that, and it's not like specific to it. Would that be covered under work attire?
Can I maybe answer just for a second on this question? Do you mind jumping? If I jump in, Sophie?
Go ahead.
Yeah. One of the things the board of the Pinnacle Foundation did last year was to really try and shift the accountability away from us having to sort of be very prescriptive to encouraging all of you to take responsibility for your expenditure. So in essence, their thinking was, as long as at least 50% of your funds are spent on education expenses, then the remaining 50% could be spent on things which support your well-being as you so determine. So we were trying to empower the scholar cohort more. So I just put that out there before maybe, Sophie, you answer, just in terms of, yeah.
I guess in a way you could say it's not really a direct link with your education. I guess there are some grey areas, but you might want to class that as a kind of well-being type expense, and then try and put the other 50% towards things that you can more directly link
Absolutely.
with your education.
Absolutely. And with in regards to receipts and stuff, is a hard copy like a scanned hard copy receipt preferred, or is a digital receipt preferred?
There's no preference, but when it comes to the audit, you'll need to send that through to me electronically. So
Absolutely.
whether you save it as a hard copy and then take a photograph of it and send it through to me if it's requested. So that's entirely up to you if you store it as hard copy or digitally.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Now, Ollie, I'll get to you in a second. We had a question from Ethan about, would something to keep and organise our receipts be considered under our studies or extras budget? So Ethan, I'm assuming you're asking, like, would buying like a folder or something like that be considered? Is that what your question is? Yes, okay. So Sophie, did you want to?
Yeah,
tackle that
that's
one?
fine. I guess you could. It's not technically educational, but I think because it's be very low cost, it'd probably just come under your stationary costs.
Ollie Gleeson-Payne.
Hi, thanks as well, both the presenters. So like with textbooks and that sort of thing, I've obviously been trying to buy all my textbooks secondhand because, you know, they're expensive. But obviously a lot of the time that's through like just with cash or something like that. Would it be preferred if I just bought a new textbook so that I could get a receipt, even though it would be more, or would it be preferred to still get a cheaper textbook and then just get like cash approval?
Good question.
This probably goes sort of back to what Andrew was saying about empowering you guys to make some of those decisions. But there are ways you can buy secondhand textbooks from, for example, the year I had my Pinnacle Scholarship was the first time I ever actually bought a textbook in my entire university life, because I couldn't afford to purchase them prior. But the bookshop that we had at our university had a secondhand section and like a new section. So there are ways you can do it that can make it easier, I suppose, to get those receipts. Sophie, did you have something you wanted to add? Sorry, I think I cut you off.
That's okay. That's all good. Look, I think it's a fantastic idea to purchase secondhand where you can, and I know I've done that as well. So there's sort of, if you want to save the funds for other things, I wouldn't, you know, go and necessarily buy new. But if you are, like, if you're buying a textbook off another student, you could just ask them to write your receipt. You know, they just put the date, their name, what is it you're purchasing, and the amount. And then you could even just take a photograph of that with your phone and just store it electronically. So, and with the cash, I mean, you could do a transfer and just put in the little description, what it is that you're transferring, you know, educational textbooks or whatever. Do you think that would work for you?
Yeah, absolutely. So it doesn't need to be sort of a formal tax invoice with an ABN or anything, just basically a record of what the money was used for.
Yeah, if it's not being purchased from a proper business, yeah, that's one way of doing it.
Sure, thank you.
Then Christina had a question about, if there are unused funds at the end of the year, are they rolled over? I must admit, this is one of the most common questions I've had from even our existing scholars in the last couple of months. So Sophie, do you want to address that one?
Yes, they are. They'll remain in your bank account till the end of your scholarship. Yeah.
And then I know we've got a hand up, but just if it helps people, Ed mentioned in the chat that you can also get a receipt book from Officeworks, if that's something that you're going to find helpful for you. Now, the community service section that Andrew raised a question about, I think we'll just put that question off for the moment, so that we can take advantage of all the time that Sophie has given us this morning. Shannon, you had a question.
This may be more directed at Danny, and it may be a bit dumb, but as someone who already uses CommBank, I'm very familiar with the Pay ID, like being able to pay with someone's phone number. If in the case I was buying a secondhand textbook or something, are the Scholar cards capable of using Pay ID? Because I've had friends who had other sorts of cards they were having troubles with.
Sophie, that might be more of a question for you. As so, if the funds are sitting within a Commonwealth Bank account, then yes, absolutely, you could use Pay ID to make the payment. But Sophie, maybe more of a question for you as to the evidence side of that.
Yeah, I'm fairly certain you can use the Pay ID. And as far as the evidence, again, you just need to just request. I mean, you could even get an email just with someone putting a receipt on there, name, amount, date, what the purchase was for. So just similar sort of thing, unless of course it's a registered business, and then they should be able to provide you with a proper tax invoice.
Yeah, of course. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I will just say one thing on that for everybody on the phone, and I know this is probably not necessarily related exactly to what you're talking about today, but if you do have the ability to use Pay ID, please do use that. There's obviously a lot of scams and things at the moment, which a huge amount of scams. So that is the best way to protect yourself in regards to your funds, is to use Pay ID. So it does link to this I think session today, because obviously your funds are sitting in there, your scholarship funds, and you want them to to stay in your account and not be hacked and things like that. So please use Pay ID where you can.
Yeah, that was my thinking. Pay ID is a bit more secure.
Very yeah.
But with that, also just be aware that there are lots of people out there also trying to come up with scams with Pay ID. There's lots of weird ones where they say, oh, I need to transfer more than what, I had a family member have a situation where they were trying to sell something and someone said, oh, my business account won't let me transfer less than a certain amount. Can you guarantee you'll send money back to me? Kind of thing. And if anything is ever fishy, stop. If you ever have any doubts whether something is legit, don't do it. Because, and that's for your personal accounts, I suppose, not just your Pinnacle account. But, that's just something to keep in mind. I think Danny and Sophie would probably echo that. If it ever seems odd, don't do it.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
100%.
That's great advice.
Are there any other sort of can't wait to see how many receipts end up being marketplace screenshots and things to get the textbook deals? Yeah, Kata, that is definitely, it's definitely interesting to see how even things have changed and how people source different items, and particularly different courses even have different way. For example, the way medical students track down their textbooks is very different to the way law students do it, and things. So I'll be curious to see all the different ways that you guys are finding those kinds of deals and stuff over the next couple of years. So are there any other questions for Sophie or Danny before we sort of move towards the end of this session?
Yeah, I just have one more, sorry.
Yep, that's fine. And then so we'll
just-
take your question and then we'll go to Theo, and then there's another one after that.
Wait, sorry, mine, yeah.
Yeah.
Just in terms of like, if we're using it for doctor's appointments, say, with the Medicare rebates, that would go back to my like regular account normally. Can I just transfer it then back into that Pinnacle account, or what's the best way to do that?
Yes, you can. Some scholars set it up so it goes straight back into their Pinnacle account, or you can just transfer it back. That's fine either way.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, just like label it as Medicare rebate or something like that. So when for ease of your purpose, so you can see that you've done that, and also for audit purposes. And then I think Natasha was our next question.
Yeah, so is there like a certain way to divide the wellbeing expenses? So like maybe 10% would go to medical and then 15% rent, or is it just like a free-for-all kind of thing?
No, we used to do that, but we found it was too hard for the scholars and also us to monitor. So that's why we just do up to a maximum 50% on wellbeing, and obviously 50% or more on educational expenses. So we don't categorise it within those groups.
And Theo, your hand is still up. Did you have another question?
Oh, sorry, forgot to put it down.
All right, no worries. I had a question from Kata about, is it possible to use Tyro at the GP with the card? I'm going to be honest, I don't know what that means. I think, Kata, you've been having issues with your mic. Are you able to explain that, unless someone else knows what that means? No, Kata, we might need a little bit more of an explanation. And then Michaela, would something like a gym membership over a semester or a year be acceptable as a wellbeing expense? Well, wellbeing expenses is sort of anything that can contribute towards your well-being. It's a type of FSPOS machine. Okay. I'll pass to Sophie about the gym question, and we'll come back to Kata's question.
So yes, the gym membership, and again, just as long as it's below that 50%, that's fine.
And then, so I had not heard of it. So Kata says it's you scan the back of the card to get the funds before and after. So you're talking about the Medicare funds, Kata, that it would go straight back to the card that you scanned? So it's to pay the gap. You can use the card to pay the gap, provided you're still within your spending limits. I think Natasha used the word free-for-all before. It's not quite a free-for-all. Like, we need to be able to link that spending back. So I think we've answered Kata's question. Fantastic. So we've only got a couple more minutes. Are there any sort of last minute questions for Danny or Sophie? Judd, you had a question?
Yeah, sorry. I think I kept raising and then lowering my hand accidentally.
I did see something going up and down, so.
So I was wondering, I don't know if this has been answered, but I don't think, I haven't seen an answer for it. So if we, for example, pay for something for that, we can get a Medicare rebate back, but we have to pay the full amount initially, and then that amount, we pay for it with our Pinnacle account, but then because our Medicare account isn't attached to our Pinnacle account, that money the rebate comes back to a different account. How does it work?
So then you would transfer that rebate back into the Pinnacle account.
Right, okay.
So that way your Pinnacle card is only paying the gap, if that makes sense.
Yeah, but then on the receipt it will show up the full amount because the rebate only comes back after.
Yes, usually my experience when I've been to a doctor is they will give you a receipt that will show how much you've paid, but often it will also list what the Medicare rebate will be.
Okay. Yeah.
So, and if you don't get that, you can often ask them to provide something to that effect.
Okay.
Now, Darcy John asked, I think this is going to be a bit of a complex one, so I might make this the last question for Sophie and Danny. Are we able to save some money for a semester abroad? And how would using Pinnacle funds work if you're going abroad for on exchange for a semester? Now that exchange is an option again for people.
Do you want me to answer, or are you?
Yeah, you go, Andrea. That's fine.
You are able to spend funds towards an approved semester of study overseas, but it must be a part of your course. So you can't just choose to go on an overseas holiday or something like that. It must be an approved semester of study, which counts towards your the study that you're undertaking. So if you are planning to do that, you would always first speak to Laura to agree all of that with Laura, and then Laura and Sophie will be aware of that prior to you making any of that expenditure.
And there would also be, I'm sure Danny would be able to tell you this, if you're going to be going abroad, make sure you tell your bank so that they don't flag them as like false transactions. And also, I know a lot of you are currently in the process of moving for university or things like that. If you are updating your address, you need to update it with both CBA and Pinnacle separately. So we at Pinnacle can't update your address with CBA, and CBA can't update your address with us. So just make sure, because I know some people have their cards already, some people's are sort of on their way. So just be mindful of that as well, because there's no point sending your card to South Australia if you're going to be in the ACT in a week. So did Sophie or Danny, is there anything else you'd like to add? Because we'll wrap this up now.
No, not really. Just wish everyone all the best and great to have you here.
And just from me, yeah, again, just congratulations to you all, and good luck with your studies. And if you do, you know, if I can help in any way personally, just I think my email address, I'll put it into the chat, but don't feel free to contact me directly as well if you've got any CommBank questions. But obviously you've got the other channels that Laura and Sophie has spoken about before, but I'm happy to help in any way that I can. And once again, congratulations, guys.
Thank you, Danny, and thank you, Sophie, for what was a phenomenal presentation this morning. It's really always one of the most engaging sessions, and obviously one which is very close to everybody's heart, given the nature of what we're talking about. So hopefully that was really clear. And Danny and Sophie, thank you for making time to share information this morning.
No worries. Thanks, everyone. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
See everyone.
Okay, so now we are scheduled for a short break, and we will be back at 11:20 for the next session. Thanks, everybody.
Just a note, Charlotte, I did see your question, and I can have a chat with you about that at a different time. Hi, Maddie.
Hello, how you doing?
Good. You're a little bit early. Your first one in. So
Oh, good. I win.
you do win. An even bigger win, you're wearing the same shirt you're wearing in your headshot that we have.
Yeah, that's what I tried. I almost couldn't find it, but I thought I better.
Yeah, so we've got imagine.
Hey, Andrew, how you doing?
I'm really well. How are you? And hello,
Hi,
Caitlin.
Caitlin.
I'm great.
Ah, it's
Oh,
fantastic. So exciting. How are you, Matt?
yeah, going well. It's so good to see
Fantastic.
everybody. Oh,
Andrew,
I
Matt.
still smile thinking of you in all that glam makeup at Network 10. That was such a cool day, wasn't it?
that was the best day I had all year, I reckon.
It was so much fun.
Maddie is so keen. Maddie tried to volunteer to do like Midsummer as well as this, and I said no. Well, I'll only make you do one.
I love it. Can't get enough, to be honest.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. It's awesome.
Oh,
So we've got Angela, Darcy, and Noah to come. I'll just try and keep an eye out. Our incoming scholars are on a break just at the moment, so they'll be back in about 5 minutes. But you guys feel ready to go?
excited.
Yes, very ready, very excited.
Excellent. Or, to be honest, I think it's the panel I'm looking forward to the most.
I don't really have to do that much. I can just hand over to Maddie and the crew.
Yeah.
Well, I've already said that. I can sort of I almost don't have to be here to moderate, but you know.
True. Morning tea time for you.
Yeah, make sure you have something to drink and eat in the 3 minutes you have left, Laura.
I came prepared. I have a stack of water bottles and stuff on my desk. Some left over from yesterday. It was very hot yesterday, so had to stay hydrated.
True.
Yeah. Excellent, Maddie. You've got a glass of water next to you.
I certainly do, yes.
Look at that. You're so
Maddie's a
professional.
pro. Yeah.
Got to stay hydrated.
Not too hydrated. This is a long session.
Yeah, I was just thinking that. Might put a pause on the hydration.
If you need to take a pause, you know, I was going to say, make sure you turn your camera and mic off, but if you need to step off for a second, feel free to do so.
Yeah, all good.
Oh, Shannon, 41 yesterday. So Shannon's currently in regional New South Wales.
That's way too hot.
Yeah, I'm in the central west area, and it's been rocking 40s for a week. It rained yesterday and it was hot. I've never experienced hot rain, but I never wish to experience it again.
Shower, that's bad.
Because you're moving southwards, aren't you, Shannon?
Yeah, I'm going from regional New South Wales to Canberra. So
yes,
hey, me too. I'm heading to Canberra in a month.
Oh, Canberra's the best. I used to live there. It's so nice.
Oh, really, Maddie?
Yeah. For ages.
it'll be a big change for me because even winter here is still sitting in 20s most of the time. So
Oh, you're not going to be prepared for Canberra winter. I'm saying that now. I'm sorry, but get yourself an electric.
Yeah, I'm already packing the layers. I've already got them all prepared.
Right.
Getting all the warm clothes ready.
Yes, good.
Layers are important.
Yeah. Oof.
We're sort of progressively moving to colder and colder cities. My partner's from Brisbane, but she moved to Adelaide and now we're in Melbourne and next is Canberra. And I think along the way she's learnt how to layer, which is important. But I think Canberra's still going to be a bit of a shock.
It is unbelievable.
Does that mean
Where
next on your list, Caitlin?
What was that? Sorry, did you say Tassie?
That's next on the list.
Yeah. I'll just go stay in the Australian base in Antarctica. How about that?
Oh, that'd be fun.
Yeah. I do think about it sometimes. I'm like, maybe they need a lawyer. No, they don't. They definitely don't need a lawyer.
Right. I don't know.
Well, who knows? If people start arguing about which bits belong to who.
Well, they do already do that.
It's supposed to belong to anyone, but you know.
Yeah, they do already do that, but thankfully, I think they can just shout out to Canberra and get the info they need.
Exactly. Alrighty, so No, Angela is not far off. Right. Paul, are you there?
I sure am.
Are you able to just check Noah is not having any issues? I'm just resending the link to.
Yep, I'm just sending it now. Noah just reached out.
Fantastic. Well, Ollie, Gleason, and Payne, you're in luck. The new people we have on the call are Victorian people, or well, at least for a little bit.
Yeah, I'll definitely be there in March. I'm looking forward to it, actually. Woo!
For scholars that I'm not sure I've actually said this all weekend yet. I'm based in Melbourne. Paula is based in Sydney. Andrew is based in Melbourne, / regional Victoria. And I think they're the key places. It might be helpful for you to know like where we're normally located. And then I think that's and Caitlin is currently Melbourne, but as she mentioned, we'll be moving to the ACT very shortly.
Not before Pride March, though. Very important.
Not before Pride March.
Yeah, I'll be able to make both queer festivals. I'll go from Melbourne's to Canberra's, so I'm excited about that.
Yeah, what's the point in travelling if you don't hit every queer festival along the way?
I know, although
there's a rainbow about. You got to check it out.
Yes, I think I have seen that before. The only time I was in Canberra previously was when the Marriage Equality Bill passed Parliament, and that was pretty incredible. And I think maybe the Rainbow Roundabout came afterwards in like a celebration. I'm not sure.
I can't remember, to be honest. I just know that it's colloquially referred to as the gate about, so make sure you have
All
that.
right, I'll add that to my vocabulary. Thank you.
Yeah, all good.
There you go, Shannon. That's something for you to have a look at when you get there.
Yeah, I've seen
like a crossing lights with like 2 women and 2 men.
Oh, that's cool. I've seen a rainbow road like up in like Lismore around that area, but a rainbow roundabout's new. That's a new one.
Yeah.
So we have. I'm just going to interrupt everyone's conversations. I think we might sort of get moving. We've got Noah with us, Angela with us, Maddie with us, and Caitlin with us. I'll just give Darcy a quick buzz, Paula, just to check that everything is okay on their end. But otherwise, I might let Caitlin sort of take over and run the show.
Alrighty. Well, I will begin by introducing myself to everyone. My name is Caitlin. I am a previous Pinnacle Scholar from 2014 to 2017 when I was down in Adelaide on Kaurna country. I use she, her pronouns, and I am a lawyer. I live in Melbourne now and I'm the chair of the Victorian Committee, although anyone who is listening will know that I'm about to move to Canberra, so kind of moving all around, but just hitting all the Pinnacle committees on the way, so that's good. Get to know lots of different people and slowly meeting more and more faces in the Pinnacle family, which is really exciting for me. I am joined today by a few of our current and previous scholars, which is really exciting. And I think the purpose of this session is really for all of you as incoming scholars to hear directly from our current and previous scholars about their experiences, so that you can really get the benefit of what they've learned over the last few years. There's really no better way to do it than to just hear it directly from them. So I'm really excited to be facilitating this conversation. What I will do to begin with is I'm just going to pass quickly around to each of our speakers to introduce themselves, let you know where they're based, what they studied or are studying, and anything else that they think is relevant as an intro, and then we'll go from there. So Maddie, you are front and center on my screen, so I'm going to start with you.
Great. Thank you so much, Caitlin. So my name is Maddie Weeks. My pronouns are they, them. I'm currently streaming in from Naarm, Melbourne, on the lands of the Wurundjeri Woiwurrung people of the Kulin Nation. I'm about to finish university. I have one semester left of my Bachelor of Communications Media at RMIT University. So things are getting very exciting for me. Woo!
So close. That is really, really exciting, Maddie. All right, now over to Noah to introduce yourself.
Hi everyone, my name's Noah. My pronouns are he, him, and they, them, so he, they. I'm 27. I live in Naarm, Melbourne, as well as Maddie, on the land of the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation. I've actually just graduated, so I did medicine at Uni Melb, and I've just started my internship now at Western Health, so Sunshine Hospital at the moment, which is very exciting. So yeah.
So exciting.
I'm not sure who's going next.
No, that's all right. I'll take it from here. So I will hand over to Angela to introduce yourself, please.
Hi, I'm Ange. I use she, her pronouns. I'm the little baby of the group, it seems, because I'm 20. I have just started uni, so I've done a year. I'm doing arts law. I'm currently based in Hobart on the land of the Nipaluna people. Oh, sorry, I'm on Nipaluna land. And I moved to Adelaide last year, and I'm studying at the University of Adelaide on Kaurna land in Adelaide.
Thanks, Ange. I also did arts law at University of Adelaide, so there you go.
There you go.
And Paula, do we have Darcy with us at the moment?
Darcy was just having some problems with their technology, so they were going to try and dial in from their phone. I don't see them yet.
Yeah, no problem.
What we'll do is, might we just sort of move on a little bit, and then when Darcy gets on, we can just sort of take a back step and let. Oh, here he is.
Oh, there we go.
Oh yes, Andrew, was there something you wanted to add?
Sorry, that was accidental.
You never know. All right, I might shout out then to Darcy. Can you hear us, Darcy? I can see that you've just joined.
G'day, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we
yes,
can.
we can hear you.
Okay, awesome. I'm really sorry. One moment, I just stepped on my glasses and popped the lens out of one of them. Yeah, so.
No worries. Take all the
30
time
seconds
you
to get
need.
that.
While you're doing that, Darcy, I will just quickly say for your benefit that I'm Caitlin. I will be moderating this panel. It's lovely to meet you. I haven't met you before. We have just done intros with Noah, Ange, and Maddie, who will be your fellow panelists, and our current scholars, incoming scholars are all hovering in the background, listening away. And
Awesome.
what we're going to do is just run through some questions. And I didn't say this before, but about halfway through, I'll give everyone a break because I know it's a long session, and also give everyone an opportunity to, have a think about what has been talked about. And if you've got any questions, you can pop them in the chat at that time, or at any time, pop your hand up like Andrew inadvertently did a second ago when you have a question. Anytime is fine. This is a really casual environment, and we just want everyone to feel like they can take the benefit of our wonderful scholars' experiences in the way that you see fit. So, having talked at you for 30 seconds, Darcy, how are you going? You ready to crack on?
Absolutely. Hold on. Let me just see if I can get my mic working.
No worries. And what we'll do,
Sorry,
Darcy, when you get a second. No, you're fine. Our other panelists, Noah, Ange, and Maddie, have introduced themselves. So, not to put you on the spot when you've just popped a lens out and haven't had time to get anything sorted yet, but do you want to quickly introduce yourself?
I'm just going to go glasses-less. I think it's not popping back in.
Oh, no.
But yeah.
Yeah, if you just want to quickly introduce yourself to our incoming scholars, let them know who you are, where you're based, what you're studying, and anything else that you want to add just by way of introduction.
Yeah. My name is, first of all, I would like to recognize the traditional owners of the land, the Whadjuk Noongar people of Perth. Sorry, I've probably gotten that monstrously wrong, but that's what I have written down in my notes. My name is Darcy Piercy. I'm a trans bi guy. Pronouns are he, him, his. And I've been a scholar with the Pinnacle Foundation for, I think, a year now. Pretty much exactly.
Amazing. And what are you studying, Darcy?
Oh, yeah, sorry. Forensic toxicology and biology. And clinical lab science. So that's just biology stuff, basically. Poisons and the like.
Amazing. All right. Well, thank you for introducing yourself. That's fantastic. And I reckon on that note, we will jump in. So I'm going to start at the start with a question about each of you applying for your Pinnacle scholarships. So I want to know, what was it that inspired you or pushed you to apply for a Pinnacle scholarship? Like if there were any circumstances, or you found out about it in a particular way, or you had heard anything about the foundation, what really was the impetus for you applying? I might start with Maddie. Maddie, you won't always be first. I'm just on a roll. I'll mix it up, I promise.
No worries, all good. Yeah, that's a great question. It feels like forever ago that I took the leap to apply. I remember I was just scrolling on the RMIT Pride group, the Student Pride Association, and I saw that someone had posted the link to the Pinnacle scholarship, and I was like, "Ooh, that sounds interesting. I'll give it a look." And as I was reading through, the selection criteria and all the great work that Pinnacle does, I thought, "Oh, I actually meet all of these criteria," but I've never won anything in my life. Never gotten a scholarship, so I was a bit hesitant. But my partner was very supportive. She said, "You're definitely not going to get it if you don't apply. So just do the application and just give it a go." And I did. It took a little while to kind of it's really good. The application is a great moment for you to kind of self-reflect on your journey so far, and it was really kind of the start of me going a bit deeper into my identity, even just the application process. And then I remember a few months later, I got the email saying you're into the next round, and then boom, 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 suddenly I'm a scholar, and it was so exciting. So I was very hesitant. I really just kind of took a shot in the dark, but I knew that it was something that I definitely wanted to be a part of. So you can't be a part of something if you don't give it a go. So I just took a chance, sent that application in, and here we are today. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great advice about not being able to have a shot if you don't put your hat in the ring. And I think also really good commentary on the process of the application and just how it makes you really stop and reflect and take stock, think about what you want to do and why and where you've been and how that's affected you. It's a really important part of the process. So really great comments. And I saw you nodding along there, and you're probably the person who's gone through this process most recently out of our panelists. Do you have anything that you wanted to add on what drove you to apply and how you found the application process?
Yeah, so I took a gap year the year before last after completing year 12 to sort of just stop studying, basically, just to have kind of a refresh and a bit of a break. But I knew pretty early on in the gap year that, I wanted to go to uni and I wanted to do it interstate. And then I started to think, how am I going to pay for this? So I did a quick Google search, which is a bit boring, but the Pinnacle scholarship popped up, and like Maddie, I had a look at the criteria and I thought, maybe I'll give it a shot. I was a bit hesitant, and I also spoke to my partner who said, "Oh, you should give it a go." And so I'm here. But I was nodding along because I was just talking to my partner the other day about how sort of interesting and sort of reflective the application process is, and how beneficial it was for me going into university, having kind of thought about all of these different puzzle pieces of my life and how they sort of fit together. But that's me.
Thanks, Ange. Noah, I might jump over to you for any comments.
Yeah, thank you. So the way I found out about the Pinnacle scholarship was actually my housemate. So during 2020, moved in with a bunch of randomers who over lockdown became my closest friends. And one of them in particular, Connor, was a Pinnacle scholar from a few years prior. And I kind of saw the scholarship through him and was like, hey, that actually looks really good. And I looked it up. And again, like you guys, I realized that I met the eligibility on paper, but I think, again, same as everyone, I was kind of doubtful of whether I was, I guess, deserving of it. And it seemed too good to be true. And I was like, oh, I don't know if, that's something I should apply for. But again, I thought, stab in the dark and applied. And I was so excited and grateful, to eventually be a scholar of Pinnacle. So I guess on that note, it's worth noting that every scholar here also made that plunge and also, what is deserving and has gotten it through merit and through being the right person for it. So I think that's really important to reflect on. Yeah, that's how I found out about it.
Thanks, Noah. Yeah, I think there's often a tendency in life, particularly when you're studying and you're working at the start of your career and you're kind of always looking at the next thing and you don't really take stock when something amazing happens. So it's really important that you kind of take a moment and be like, yeah, I actually did that. Like, not only did I put myself forward, but then I got it and now I'm enjoying the benefits of that. So that's a really good comment. Thanks, Noah. And finally, Darcy, what was your experience of applying for the scholarship?
Pardon me, sorry. Yeah, so I actually, I grew up in Albany, a little bit of context about me, and I moved up to Perth for university, and my brother moved up as well. And we're both LGBT, he's bi, I'm, trans and bi. And our mum got some pretty serious empty nest. She stayed behind in Albany, and she actually got involved with the Pride community. And she emails me. She's way more involved than I am, even, honestly. She's, like very, very motivated all the time. Legendary. She's wonderful. But she emailed me a link to an application. She said, you should give this a go. So yeah, much like these guys had their partners sort of say, hey, definitely give it a go. My mum was like, won't know unless you try. And yeah, again, like these guys, I really didn't expect to be accepted. I've never been an exceptionally good student. I've only, like, at tertiary education level, like, actually put my back into it and, tried with good results, I might say. But, like, my track history isn't great. But no, yeah, I got the scholarship, and not only has, like, it financially been wonderful, but, like, my mentor and, like, his advice and stuff has been, like, genuinely, like, a godsend. Like, just knowing, like, having someone older who knows the industry and knows how to get around and, like, where to apply and what places are bad, what places are good is, like, so good, like, really useful, especially, yeah, as I'm going into my last year of study. So yeah, but yeah, no, so that's pretty much it. Yeah, my mum emailed me a link and I was like, all right, sure.
Thanks, Darcy. Yeah, that's really good comments on I think about the untapped potential that there is, particularly in the queer community and with people that haven't experienced the supports that we might otherwise be able to have if we hadn't just been exactly who we are. And that's exactly why the foundation exists, is to tap into that potential, provide those supports, financial, mentoring, community, and then, like, look what happens. You're a perfect example of that. That flourishing that can really happen. So that's really brilliant. And side note is that my mum also encouraged me to apply. She sent it to me. So I love that for our mums. All right, I am going to jump on to a question now that kind of relates to, I suppose, being at the start of a journey and, like, looking down the barrel of what it might be to work in your field. And that's, what is it like to be queer in your study field or your profession? Often it can be a bit daunting at the start of a degree or at the start of your first job or your career, and that's why that mentorship aspect is really important, which we're going to come back to. But just to set the scene, I wanted to ask each of you what it's like being queer in your particular field that you're studying or working in. Noah, I might start with you to talk to medicine.
Okay, I feel like I could talk about this for literally an hour and I won't. I think there's a lot to be said. I want to acknowledge that it's a lot easier now than it has been before, and I think I can say, you know, be fierce, be confident and all these things, and that's true. But it's actually a very privileged position as well that where we are at. And I do want to acknowledge that first. But I think in medicine, we are at a better place. And I think there's a new wave of medical practitioners and kind of students coming in that are very diverse and accepting, and like it's kind of known as the new wave of medicine. And I think that's incredible. For me, I've always been, so I grew up in a very ultra conservative environment, and I've since kind of come out and swung out the other way to be a very fierce, confident kind of queer person. And I think for me, that's been such a benefit and a privilege because it has enabled me to go often that little bit further and actually be really fierce and out and queer in those spaces. And I do recognize that as a privilege. I'm really lucky because I want to go into GP. So I've had mentors and people that I really respect and look up to kind of reassure me that it is, you know, I'm not shooting my career in the head by doing this, because I want to get into that area. I want to get into queer health. I want to be a GP. So it's less on the line, and I will admit that. Whereas they have said for areas like surgery, where it is really old school, you do have to be a little bit more cautious. So for me, I am very fiercely kind of myself in those spaces, and it's gone really well. I think there's a lot of nuance and context, and I guess like there's always the balance of picking a fight and choosing where your energy and outness will be most, you know, efficient in terms of visibility. But the second part to that is, where is the balance? Where is your tipping point for, nah, this is worth it. I'm going to stick to my guns and I'm going to be my best out self. And I think that tipping point can be pretty, like, I think it can be pretty up this way. And it doesn't take much to say, actually, no, I'm going to be myself. So I think like it's good to acknowledge that you always have to be a little bit, you know, smart and thoughtful in your things, but also absolutely go for it. Be yourself, and almost every time, I think you'll get a really good response from it, and people really respond to and respect authenticity and genuine, which, you know, for us is our queerness. That's a big part of who we are. So I think in medicine, like a lot of you probably don't know, I'd recently graduated from University of Melbourne and I did it in full drag because I really wanted to do it for representation, and I wanted to be, you know, represent queer visibility in professional spaces and kind of disrupt the paradigm, I guess, because what professionalism is and what that actually means is a bit of a social construct. And there's a lot of evidence kind of around that, a lot of research that says even things like African-American hair or different skin colors are perceived as less professional. And that kind of makes us stop and think, oh, wait a second, who's deciding what professionalism is, and do I want to actually adhere to that? So, you know, professionalism can be whatever you want it to be. And I think it's really important to think about that often. So yeah, I graduated in drag and it had a really good response. The medical school thanked me. They said, you know, thank you for being so fabulous, and you're the kind of person we want graduating our medical school, which was excellent and so affirming. So yeah, I guess, you know, with the small caveat of doing things thoughtfully and with intention, absolutely go for it, and absolutely be yourself, be queer, and trust yourself as well. Yeah, so I guess that's my answer for being queer in medicine.
Thanks, Noah. That was a brilliant response and a really important reminder about the value of being yourself in environments, of course, where it's safe to do so, but in a way that really not just lifts yourself up, but lifts everyone else up around you. And it's a part of changing these fields like medicine that are really old school. It really can just take one person to start a ripple effect. And I mean, graduating in drag absolutely is more of a wave. So congratulations on that. That is amazing.
Add is like a lot of people did tell me not to, and a lot of people were like, I don't know if that's a good idea. I don't know if, you know, if that's actually going to negatively impact you. And again, I think that's where, you know, your tipping point can actually be quite high up, because I decided, actually, no, I believe this is true. I believe this isn't going to have a negative effect, and like it's worth it, because SBS ended up covering it and it got really good coverage, which means that how many young people or any people have seen that now and feel confident to do the same? And it turned out really well. And I think that's why it's also good to just like take the plunge and trust yourself, because it's worth it. You know, visibility is really important. So yeah.
Couldn't agree more. Thank you, Noah. With a bit of a change of track then, I might go to Maddie to talk about comms and your field more broadly and what it's like being queer in that environment.
Yeah, sure. So my field of study is communications, media. So I'm got my finger in a lot of pies. I'm in a lot of different industries, and the main reason I started studying this degree is that I also do stand-up comedy. So I'm working as a comedian at the moment and also a full-time student. So I'm getting a really good glimpse into a lot of different industries, and what I'm finding quite interesting is the communications field is quite accepting. There's a lot of queer people around me. It's definitely quite a nice environment, and I feel that I can be pretty much my queer self as it extends to my sexuality. But when it gets to my gender, I'm non-binary. I find that that field is still very much, they don't really know. Like I'll have a lot of people performatively, wearing their pronouns on their name tags and then consistently misgendering me and others in the office. So I feel that it's one thing for communications, organizations to, say, hey, we're really good allies. We're really going to make it an accepting environment for you. And I definitely feel okay to be myself there, but it's not quite there yet in the comms field. I think a lot of people grew up at a time where sexuality was talked about openly, and it's only now that I even feel confident enough to tell potential employers or people at internships about my pronouns. So I guess it is a good step forward that I am able to have these conversations with them, but there's still a lot of work to do, because inclusivity isn't just ticking a box. It's the day-to-day actions that really matter. And I find often workplaces that think that they're really inclusive still lack a lot of understanding on what that means on a day-to-day basis. Just the small things that can really make my day quite difficult. So that's the communication side of things. That's the more corporate office side of things, I guess. And in my other life, in comedy, you would think that being queer and non-binary would be accepted in the arts world, which it is to an extent, but there's still a lot of issues that arise, especially in like the pub environments where you're doing stand-up comedy there and you're the only queer person on a lineup, or I've seen, unfortunately, queer comedians go up and then the next comedian that gets up is a straight white cis man, and of course that queer person is the butt of that guy's next joke, is the punchline. So I've noticed that there's a big problem in the broader Australian arts community. And I myself had, in, I think it was 2019, I did a show, and look, let me tell you, I was part of a ensemble show, a group of us doing about 5 minutes of comedy each, and I was the only queer person on the lineup, and it just wasn't a good show. Not, our jokes weren't really hitting, the audience weren't really into it. It was at 5 p.m, like not a good time for comedy, let me tell you that much. And we had a reviewer there, and instead of writing a review saying, look, wasn't a great show, not the best time slot, the review said that the show was going fine until Maddie Weeks came on stage with some gay jokes and lost the support of the older audience. Now, reading that review hit me so hard and kind of sent me on a bit of a, self, identity crisis, I guess. I was thinking, was it my fault? I thought it was going bad before I got on stage. I'm not sure what's going on. I can't believe they wrote that. And it really started a journey, I guess, because I thought, there's not many spaces where queer comedians can get up and tell their gay jokes to a supportive audience. And on top of that, there's not many spaces where queer people can go and see, queer comedy. So after, a few, long chats with my partner, we said, all right, well, we've just got to change the industry ourselves. If no one else is going to do it, we have to do it. So about 3 years ago, we started an all-queer comedy show. that's been going so well. It's been so lovely. We've been running it at a couple of different festivals around Melbourne, and it's an all queer lineup, all queer production team, and it's starting to really build up like a community around it where people come to it every year and they know that, you know, it's going to be a safe space for them. But the performers know that they can talk about bits of their identity that they might not feel safe talking about at a normal, you know, pub comedy show. And it's been such a wonderful experience just knowing that it seemed like such a small thing to just start a show, but the ramifications of that, I've seen, you know, other people start their own version of that in other suburbs, and it's just kind of taking off, and we're just kind of making the Melbourne comedy scene just so gay, which I love. It was such a small thing, and I'm just, you know, I'm just one person, but you can make a difference. Like back in 2019, things were so different to how they are now, and I'm just so, I guess, surprised at how much impact you can actually have by just, you know, acting on something, just saying, I want to make something better. What can I do? And just go for it. Just do it. It's just been so wonderful to have a show to look forward to. And now, I run one in Footscray every month. You can come along if you want. Plug, not meant to be plugging, I guess, in this, but it's at Pride of our Footscray every month, and it's just such a nice environment. So I guess that's the stand-up comedy side of things, and I'm hoping to bring that same energy and passion with me into the more professional communications media side of things, kind of navigating my the confidence I have in the stand-up world. I want to kind of bring that into the more corporate desk job environment, but we shall see. It's a constant journey that I will be, you know, working on as I graduate, I guess. Yeah.
Thanks, Maddie. Thank you for sharing that experience. It's really, really generous of you and really important for us all to hear. And I think also just interesting to contrast, as Ollie said, plug the name of the show, pop it in the chat, do whatever you need. But interesting to contrast these sort of like quote unquote progressive environments where we think, it's got to be a lot better. And it sounds like there are a lot of ways in which it is more welcoming, but I think in all environments, we all know from our personal experience that there's a long way to go, particularly when maybe sexuality is more and more accepted. But when we get to gender in workplaces, we know that there's still a lot of work to be done. And it's really important that we find spaces to talk with each other, like you said, in the environments where you're able to bring comedians together to share your experiences. That's really incredible. So great stuff. And thank you for sharing. I'll jump back to one of the more traditional environments now, and I want to talk to you about your perspectives on what it might be like to join the legal profession. I know you're at the start of your studies and it's a long degree, but as someone at the very beginning of your journey, what is your impression of the profession you're about to enter into?
Yeah, it's interesting. I can't really speak so much to the professional side of things because I'm only in my second year, but I'll start with sort of my student experience. Coming and moving over from Tassie to Adelaide, I came out a lot. I remember in my first year, both in the university environment and outside of it. And I remember being quite exhausted. I remember getting to kind of the end of first semester and I just thought, oh my gosh. I remember coming home actually and just thinking, oh, I don't have to do that here because I'm out here, which, was quite exhausting. But I think in terms, it's tricky with law because I have a lot of privilege, I guess, and I want to acknowledge that first. So I haven't experienced overt homophobia in the legal space yet, and hopefully not ever. But I think because historically it is so white, cishet dominated, it is definitely tricky to navigate when to bring your queerness up and into a conversation, which, is tricky when you're trying to sort of meet new people and navigate university. And I remember sort of trying to figure out when was the right time to come out to someone, or when was the right time to sort of actively sort of seek out queerness within the degree, because I think there is definitely still a lack of representation. But I got there, and the profession is getting better. But yeah, I think in terms of my first year experience, it was hard to navigate.
Yeah. Well, fingers crossed. It's certainly my experience in the law is that, you know, things do slowly shift in the right direction. But yeah, it can be a bit of a slow process, and it involves a lot of change on a lot of people's parts and a lot of allies doing the right thing. So we just have to keep pushing that in the right direction. But my experience has been, as you said, caveated by a lot of privilege, but has been really positive so far. So I hope that the same will be the case for you if and when you decide to become a lawyer. And finally, Darcy, I want to speak to you about your experiences and your impressions of science, or if you wanted to talk specifically to your field of forensics, feel free. But what is your impressions of the diversity of the field, and just what you've got ahead for you?
Like I want to say, like, broadly speaking, any kind of biology is like, I'd probably say queerer than you would expect. Like that seems to be my general experience, is that you know, in university there'll always be a couple people in class who will be like, all right, yeah, okay, cool, I get it. And it's always been like quite nice. Like it's always been a little bit surprising and it just like cool always to see like people out there doing their thing and just like getting along with life. In the actual professional field, I should probably caveat that I really haven't like had any proper forensics jobs. I mostly work as like a lab tech. That said, I've worked in a few different lab spaces, which is sort of a little bit related to forensics, sort of. It's, yeah, anyway. And everyone there has been pretty accepting. I think like the thing with lab work is if you're good at your lab work, it really doesn't matter what you get up to in your own time, as long as you like work with the fossil of a machine, because they're all fossils of machines, you know, like they're all ancient and very finicky. But yeah, there are points where, you know, obviously you run into people who pull a face at your hair, or like, you know, will make a couple of jokes that are pretty off color about like women or minorities, and it's like, all right, well, whatever. And I think like at that point, like Noah mentioned, like it kind of is one of those things where you have to balance, like, is it worth like calling this person out on, you know, saying something that's not great, even if it's only a minor thing, or you know, should I let this go? And I find usually it's better to sort of talk it out with them and say, hey, or like no sell the joke. But you know, you do encounter issues with that, and I think honestly you'll find that in any field, but it does tend to be frustrating because a lot of the people who are established in like particularly STEM tend to be old white dudes who can be pretty set in their ways. And you know, I'm sure we've all encountered someone in university who's just been, or a professor who's just like had some absolutely archaic standards for something for no real like visible reason. And sometimes you just got to get through that, I think. And that's like, yeah, that's pretty much the kind of guy you'll encounter in sort of the forensics lab science area. Yeah. But on the whole, people are pretty all right, I think. And I like to think that I can sort of talk it out with most people if I'm working with them, you know. I mean, being queer doesn't stop me from running the machine, you know. So, yeah.
Thanks, Darcy. I think that's really important to share, and your comment about the machines being like old, fossil, archaic things made me think of partners in law firms, but I digress. Darcy, I want to come back to you and sort of shift into mentorship now, because I think having set the scene that you all have about, you know, what it might look like to be in your fields and what some of the challenges might be, I think that leads really nicely into the value of having a mentor in your field that can help you navigate those challenges or speak to their experiences at least. And Darcy, you mentioned back at the start that you have had a really positive experience with your mentor. And I wanted to ask you a little bit about your relationship with your mentor, and taking it right back to the start, like how did you initiate that relationship? I know it can feel, at least from my experience, a bit like clunky at the start. You like don't know how formal to be, and then you sort of hit a groove, and it's really, really wonderful. So did you want to speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. And can I just say, Caitlin, that was absolutely my experience as well. I think honestly, you find that with just about anyone, like there's always a bit where it's like, hi, what's up? How are you going? And it's awkward small talk for a bit, and then you sort of actually start to talk, and I think from there it's pretty easy. But yeah, I could honestly, I could talk for hours about how useful my mentor, his name is Jake, has been. Like, not only did he complete like pretty much the exact same course that I'm doing, but he's employed in forensic toxicology, like in Perth now. And he studied at the exact same university that I'm at, Murdoch, which is awesome. Like it's really cool because it means like he knows which classes have like the hardest teachers, which ones are really content heavy, like which ones, surprisingly difficult, like which ones are fine for 4 weeks and then really difficult for the rest. It's just really useful. And outside of just like learning stuff, he's like been absolutely indispensable for things like advice on like doctors in the area. Like it can be a bit hard getting like a doctor who knows trans stuff. He knows like I got my top surgery in March actually, which was awesome for me. It was like freaking transformative, pun intended. He was really great for resources for recovery with that. And then like not even just social stuff, like to do with employment. He's had experience in the field, so he knows which companies are more accepting, which ones have a better queer space, which ones have like good insurance schemes and so forth. It's honestly just not only having someone older in the field who like you can trust in that way, but having someone older in the field like who just like knows their way around in any situation is just so useful. And it's just like outside of all that, he's just a wonderful guy. Like we catch up and we have a beer together, and it's always just nice to talk about how our lives are going. And I'd like to say I think we're friends now at this point. Like yeah, he's just great. And yeah, nothing but good things to say about the mentorship program with Pinnacle. It's been seriously great for me.
Thanks, Darcy. That's really great to hear. And yeah, I know the foundation and Laura and our previous mentor managers put a lot of time and effort into making those connections with people, mentor or mentors for each person that will really help. It sounds like in your case, Darcy, like really hit the jackpot. Being able to talk to specific subjects is something I haven't heard before. So that is incredible. And I'm really pleased for you and pleased to hear that. I might now jump to Noah to talk about your mentor experience. From memory, have you had a couple of mentors, Noah? Or is that just the one? Okay. And how did you find the start of the mentoring relationship? Were there any tips or tricks that you can offer to sort of how you get things started, and then how the relationship changes over time, and what that required from you?
Yeah, so I guess same as Darcy, I only have good things to say, and I've had an excellent time with my mentor. And, now that I'm technically not a scholar anymore, we still have a really good relationship, and I think that'll continue. It's funny because at the start, I feel like I'm a very open person and we got along well, but it was we found it hard to find a groove of, okay, like what do we actually talk about, and what are we allowed to talk about in terms of what's the scope of this relationship? Like, do we just talk about professional things, or do we talk more about personal things? And I think I, for one, really wanted to talk about both. And I found him to be excellent in terms of internship applications and which hospitals are good, and kind of career decisions, and just all the things like that. And that's been really helpful and excellent. But also I wanted to talk to him, so he's a gay male doctor. I wanted to talk to him about kind of relationship things and challenges around sexuality and all those things, because I really value kind of different perspectives of that. And also I really love older queer people and their, you know, intergenerational perspectives as well. And I really wanted that input, you know, more towards my professional and personal life. And I think we found an excellent group where we would, you know, catch up, go for coffee. We've been to the NGV a few times, or we've gone for nature walks, and it's been excellent. And then we can just talk about how's study going, what are my barriers, what am I finding difficult, and, you know, study techniques and things like that. But also, how are my relationships going? How is my personal life? You know, we've discussed things from, you know, what intern hospital to go to like the benefits of ethical porn, you know, or like how is your relationships going, or how is your parents and the dynamic between you and your parents and the complexity there when they might not be queer friendly. And I think, you know, while still being, you know, professional people and stuff, you can actually talk about a really wide scope of things if it's a safe place and if it's a safe dynamic and working up to that. And I think it's so, yeah, it's been excellently beneficial to have that person who's in the same career path, very similar to you in a lot of ways. And again, Pinnacle are incredible with actually pairing you up with someone who's similar. Yeah, and having that friend, companion, and mentor to go alongside you. Yeah, it's been really excellent. And our relationship, like I remember at the start, we had a shared Evernote document of like agenda and things to discuss, and like, you know, it was really quite, what would you say, formal. Whereas now we just catch up and like, hey, like what's going on? Yeah. Yeah, and I was able to send him when all my articles came out about graduation. I sent it to him and he was like, yeah, it's been really lovely. So that would be my mentor experience.
Thanks, Noah. That really definitely backs up what we've heard in terms of that changing style and, you know, the way that the relationship really moves over time, but also, I guess, emphasizes the importance of understanding that significant life events, you know, transitions, moving house, share houses, friendship breakdowns, relationship breakdowns, things like that, you know, the mentor isn't there, as we all know, to be a therapist. We have amazing scholarship money that we can pay a professional to do that with, but you know, it does impact on you. It impacts on how you're feeling. It impacts on your studies. And when you join, you know, the working environment, those things will continue to impact on how you conduct yourself, how you feel, how you work, how you live. And so it's impossible to fully, you know, keep those things separate. And it's important that if you feel comfortable, you talk about them in a way that, as I said, acknowledges that, you know, there are lots of supports available, but if you need to talk about them in another environment, but equally understanding that we're complex human beings and there are lots of things that we want to talk about and get advice on that may affect how you're feeling at any given time. I remember when I was studying, you know, relationship breakdowns, share house things, family, parents, you know, they were front of mind sometimes more than my studies. And it's really hard to just put your head down and get stuck into the books when there's stuff going on. So it's important to be able to recognize that you can raise those things, and, you know, you can get some really wonderful feedback from people who have been through it before. I remember my mentor, who is a judge, was talking about, you know, what it was like to even just talk about having a female partner in the legal profession. And, you know, that's quote unquote her personal life, but it's a huge part of who she is. And being able to hear that from her was really important for me. And I found a really deep connection with her on that level to understand, you know, if she felt like she was leaving her whole personal life at the door every day, then it wasn't going to be conducive to her feeling really good in her job and healthy and happy. So yeah, thank you for sharing that, Noah. Now, Ange, I want to talk to you as well about your relationship with your mentor. How did it start? How did it start off? And what are your suggestions for our new scholars on how to kick things off? You know, we heard from Noah about an agenda and things like that. Sometimes it can feel a bit clunky, but truly, like, I love a good agenda. If you need it, go for it. How did you navigate that?
Yeah, I remember talking to Sam at the start of the year, sort of about what I was looking for in a mentor and what kind of I thought first year would look like in terms of moving states and starting university, which no one in my family had done previously. So I had pretty much little to no sort of representation in that sort of realm. And yeah, we spoke a bit about moving and wanting someone who sort of understood the complexities of sort of moving states with my partner at the time, who I was moving with, and studying and doing all that sort of stuff. So I was really fortunate last year to have my lovely mentor, Monica, who is a clinical psychologist, so a slightly different field to law. But I was really lucky with her that she understood sort of how the university environment worked, because she's also an academic. And she moved away to do her PhD whilst her partner was living in Adelaide. So it was, really nice to have someone who had the lived experience and had kind of done it and succeeded. And yeah, it was really nice for that. On the professional side of things, I was really lucky to have Courtney, who I think might be the chair in South Australia, but I'm not sure if I'm correct in saying that, who is a lawyer in Adelaide, and she has been, they've been wonderful in guiding me kind of through the process. I think they may have completed their law degree maybe in the last 5 years or so. So it's been really nice to kind of chat about subjects and have sort of, they have a really good understanding of kind of how some subjects work. Are some subjects harder than others? I've been really lucky, and I feel really grateful for those relationships, having moved away and sort of understanding how difficult and rewarding that process can be at the same time. It's really good. Really good.
Thanks, Ange. It's really good to hear a common theme sort of coming through, which is to sort of stick with it and to really be able to benefit from that knowledge and expertise that will come. And whether they're, a relatively recent grad or they've been in your field for years and years, there's so much to be gained in either direction. So that's awesome. I'm really glad to hear that, Ange. And finally, Maddie, if we could hear from you a little bit about your experiences with your mentor when you first met them. What was it like, and what tips can you share for our new scholars?
Yeah, absolutely. Gosh, I feel like I met my mentor years ago now, but it was only last year, I guess. It was incredible. Pinnacle does such a good job of matching you with a mentor. I think it was a bit hard, like, who are you going to pair with me? I've got so many different interests and my field of study is so broad, but I was so lucky to be paired with Karen from Midsummer Festival. She's the CEO of the Queer Festival here in Melbourne. And she is just a phenomenal person. Our first meeting, I was so nervous. We just had a quick Zoom meeting to kind of break the ice. I find, it's a bit easier sometimes to talk to someone on a screen before you meet them in person. And we just didn't have an agenda. We kind of just spoke as two, queer people in the arts. And it was really nice to kind of get through the formalities and then quickly, tee up a coffee, meet up the next week. So I wasn't, really nervous trying to look around in the coffee shop, trying to see who she is. Because sometimes, photos online, they look completely different in real life. So it was good that we had that first quick chat. I think that was very smart of her. She suggested that. First of all, we kind of outlined, what do we want this relationship to look like? Like, do you want to talk about uni stuff? Do you want to talk about comedy producing stuff? And it was really good to kind of, each of us had the opportunity to set what our expectations were of that partnership, which was really good. And from there, it kind of just took off, and we'd meet up every few weeks. She's a very, very busy person, but she was so kind. She always would make time for me, if it was just a quick Zoom meeting to talk something out, or, I got to a really hard point in the semester and I didn't know, what to do. I was so lucky she's worked in the industry for so many years. She's got, knowledge of kind of every single moving part whether it's marketing, communications, media side of things, event management side of things. She's just been so helpful. She has such a deep, pool of wisdom that I was able to draw from, which was really good. It's really opened my mind to a lot of things. And yeah, I think I just found myself every time I met with her just getting more and more comfortable, I guess. And yeah, I guess now I'd call her a friend, definitely. And even after I graduate, I'll definitely be emailing her still from catch-ups, because she's just an awesome person. And I feel very, very grateful for our partnership. It's been great in, all aspects of my life, I guess. Just having someone older who is queer in the industries that I want to go into, and we can talk about. She's been working in this field for many, many years, and it's interesting to see how things have changed. I think she's been in the field for about 30 years. I think that might be. I think about that long. And it's really interesting to see how things were when she started to how things are now, and things are definitely getting better. Which it's good to kind of take a step back and realize that things can feel quite difficult at times, but talking to her, it makes me really hopeful for the future, which is good. Yeah.
Thanks, Maddie. And I love that we're also getting a bit of a theme here of the friendship that you can have, not just the mentorship, but the friendship. And I am further out than all of you. It's nearly been 10 years now since I first met my mentor, and we were literally texting yesterday. It was her 60th birthday. We were, exchanging messages. I sent her some flowers. She sent me some flowers when I got married. She came to Melbourne a few months ago and had dinner with her wife and my now wife, and I was talking about challenges I was having in the workplace, and she was able to help me with those. I was like, you're off the clock, you don't have to mentor me anymore. But she was just she just was so helpful, and still really generous with her time and her insights, and absolutely a friend. So I really wish that for all of you as well, if that's where things end up. Thank you. Now, on that note, I think I'm going to give us a 5-minute break, and then we'll come back for the final half an hour. This has already flown, so I'm going to have to really speed through some of these questions. So if we come back at 22 past, give it 5 minutes, and then we'll jump into the final 30 minutes of questions. Thank you so much.
And just while our panelists end up having a quick break, if anyone has any questions you'd like to throw in the chat or throw at us, and we can look and see if we can fit them in with our panelists in the next sort of half hour. Look at everyone right on time, ready to get back into it.
Brilliant. All right, well, we will kick back off again. Thank you to our panelists for the first hour of this. We are on the home stretch, and as Laura said, if any questions pop up for any of our current or incoming scholars, I should say, pop them in the chat or raise your hand. Would love to hear from you if you have anything on your mind. But otherwise, I am going to jump back in. Now, this question is about, we've sort of talked about a few different aspects so far of the scholarships. You know, the benefit of the finances has been touched on a little bit, obviously the mentorship quite a lot. And I want to talk a little bit about the community aspect, and specifically, I think most of you, if not all, but most have been involved in Pinnacle events. So in particular, things like speaking at partners events, Maddie's been on TV. We've had lots of different opportunities for you to get out there to meet people in the community, to form connections with people outside of your mentor or your current scholar cohort. And I wanted to ask you about your experiences, particularly of those speaking opportunities and those community building opportunities, and what the benefits you found of those have been. Because as we have more and more scholars, we have more and more partners, there's more and more opportunities, and it's something from my experience that you can really seize with both hands and make absolutely the most out of it if that's what you want to do. So I thought I would start with Maddie to talk a little bit about the kinds of opportunities you've been involved in through Pinnacle and how, if at all, that's been beneficial for you.
Yeah. This was a part of the scholarship that I was not expecting, but it's been so fantastic. I've spoken at a few events, at some partner functions, and it's just such a nice environment. You're surrounded by so many incredible professionals and incredible people, and you're just getting a moment to share your story and share your experience, which is really important, I think, not just for a chance to, you know, have the microphone. Obviously, I love that. But it's just a great opportunity for you to kind of stop and take stock of, you know, your journey so far and how you can communicate that to others. That's a really important part, I think, of being a queer person, is kind of being able to share your experiences, share your story, and building up the confidence to do that, because it is quite daunting. But I think it's one of the most important things that we as queer people can do, is share our experiences. Because when I was younger, if I had, you know, someone talking about their experience being queer and non-binary at university, I think I really would have gotten a lot out of hearing that. So these events are a great opportunity to practice your public speaking skills, practice your communication skills, and they're also just so much fun. I can't get enough of it, just meeting, you know, so many fantastic people and getting to talk about your story. And yeah, we got to go to Channel 10 one day, and I was literally getting my makeup done with Carrie Bickmore beside me. Anyway, a bit of a perk. That was, woo, best day of my life. But even that was just incredible. She's a babe. Yeah, it was just so fantastic because, you know, I grew up in a very regional, small country town. And if I could have seen myself on, you know, in a TV studio talking about being non-binary, I would have been shook. It was so really, I guess the word I would choose is life affirming. And so wonderful to feel safe and secure and supported to share your journey publicly. And it's daunting, but if you get any of these opportunities, I would just say, just take them. Yeah, you should do it even if it scares you. You should definitely do it if it scares you. I think doing the things that scare us is one of the best things that we can do for ourselves. So yeah, definitely take up any opportunity you can. It's really beneficial. It is a little bit scary, but you won't be good at it until you practice. So definitely give it a go.
Thanks, Maddie. Yeah, and you're in very safe hands, as you said. The environments that scholars speak in and attend events in are really warm, really enjoyable, and as you said, really fun environments. I've been to a lot of really fun Pinnacle events, and I just always leave them feeling so full of energy and joy and just really connected to people in the community. So I completely agree with everything you said, and very jealous that you met Carrie Bickmore. Darcy, I could see you nodding along, and I know that you have spoken at an event before. Did you want to share your experience with that?
Yeah, sure. First of all, do tell me if there's any weird sounds from my mic. The aircon is blowing directly at me. I've relocated a little bit because it's quite warm here. Yeah, no, I've spoken at a couple of Pinnacle events, and honestly, everyone there has always just been lovely. It really is like, I was really nervous before my first one, but I got up there and it's just people quite honest asking me, hey, how has Pinnacle helped you out? And I was like, well, there is a huge laundry list of ways in which they have like helped me out. And it was just telling them about like, hey, these are sort of, I guess, roadblocks that not everybody faces, or like stumbling blocks. Like, you know, for example, hormone therapy costs money. Like it's like a consistent cost that sort of, you know, you regularly pay. And just having the opportunity to have something that will, you know, help lessen that if you sort of cutting it close with the rent that month. Like I work part-time because I'm also at uni, so you know it can be a bit hard making ends meet, and just genuinely like having a backup there, really it just takes so much stress off me. Like it really is just like so nice to know that like not only for like, you know, just the fiscal aspect of it, but like if I have like I moved out I was a Pinnacle scholar, right? And if I actually like got advice from Sam, the previous mentor manager, about moving out and like, you know, how they found their place and so on and so forth. So yeah, it's really, sorry, there I go again. It really is easy for me to talk about how much Pinnacle has helped me because they have helped me seriously. And really, it's just speaking to a small room full of people who want to hear, you know, how their money is helping people. And it pretty much is that easy. You just, you know, say, hey, it really helped me. And honestly, everybody's always wanted to hear what I've had to say, and they've always been really sweet about it afterwards. Like, I've never had to speak in front of people who felt like, where I felt like it's been like a chore for them or anything. The crowd's always really lovely, and of course, there are always people from Pinnacle there who have like, you know, talked me through it. And if you know you need to like write out a little speech, you can always run it by them, and they'll definitely help you out. Yeah, no. I guess what I'm saying is, if any of you guys are concerned about the speeches, don't be. They're not that scary. Like even if you're terrified of speaking in public, and let me tell you, I am not very confident. They're really quite easy, and it's always, you know, pretty nice people that you're talking to. Yeah, so I guess that's all I got to say.
Yeah, thanks, Darcy. That's really great to hear. I know the few times that I've had speaking engagements when I was a scholar, I remember getting, you know, emails afterwards from people at these companies who I think had probably never been able to see someone in a professional environment talk openly about their queer experience, or they would come up to me and be like, I have a trans kid and it's just so amazing to hear about a foundation that's helping people like my child. And, you know, those environments are really special. And the nerves at the start were always, for me at least, offset like tenfold at the end when you just feel that real rush of support and community around you, and the fact that people really engage with what you're saying and they see the need for what we're doing in the foundation. Noah, I know you've had a few opportunities as well, and I'm wondering whether you'd be happy to share a little bit about your experiences with the Pinnacle community and speaking and events.
Yeah, for sure. So again, I've been really lucky, and I feel so grateful for the opportunities I've had. So similar to the, you know, previous two, like I've had a few speaking engagements, which have been absolutely incredible. And again, I was nervous before, but, you know, I didn't have to be. And it was so, you know, for that experience, it was so amazing to just actually stand up as myself and just, I actually found it so much easier than I thought, because for once, I was standing up in a shirt and then a skirt, and I felt very comfortable. I was like, yep, this is me. And I was able to just speak about myself and my experiences and my story. And that held weight. And that actually was, a really lovely thing to share. And the feedback was excellent. I had people coming up to me afterwards with really affirming feedback about, again, a queer person they might know, a queer child. I remember mentioning that, I identified as quite gender fluid, and one of the people put their hand up and was like, so what is gender fluid? Like, I was like, well, here we go, and I was wearing a skirt and I rode there on the motorbike, and I mentioned that because I was like, oh, this is a funny thing. And a lot of people had comments about riding a motorbike in a skirt. So like, yeah, it was a really lovely experience. And I remember afterwards just being like, that was excellent. And I think I also managed to go to Mardi Gras and march in the Mardi Gras parade with Pinnacle, which was lovely. And having the financial support to do that, but also just the opportunity, was excellent. And I would encourage everyone to go to Mardi Gras because it is gay Christmas and more. So yeah, I think even things like there's a local GP clinic that's really queer friendly, and I was able to meet the owner of that at one of the Pinnacle events and was like, hey, this is me, and had a lovely conversation. So, you can call it networking, or you can call it, creating connections to mutually flourish together. And I think knowing queer people in the field and knowing you're surrounded by lovely people who are there to support you and vice versa. Yeah, Pinnacle has definitely helped in that regard and created so many opportunities for that. So yeah, that's my answer.
Thanks, Noah. And finally to you, I'm not sure whether you've had any speaking opportunities yet, correct me if I'm wrong, but I would love to hear even, I imagine you've been to a Scholar Welcome and some other events. I would love to hear what your experiences were of those events.
Yeah, I did speak at one event last year in Roxby Downs, which is a small mining town, just outside of Adelaide, maybe 2 hours, 3 hours. We had to fly there, which was sort of fun. But yeah, I was really nervous going in. I think I've done quite a bit of public speaking just because of like law stuff in the past, but it was a different type of public speaking, having to share, a very personal story to me. And like I said about, and Maddie was saying about the application process being quite reflective, this also, very similar, was quite reflective. But yeah, like everyone else has said, everyone was lovely. It was very affirming, telling my story and having such lovely responses, especially in a town like Roxby Downs, so small, quite conservative, I believe. It was lovely. As for community, I feel like I've spoken a lot about moving away, kind of relocating and finding friends and figuring out uni, and having a wonderful group of queer people in Adelaide already, all sorted, was fantastic. I'm not sure how many of you are moving away, but having that support sort of already set up was, fantastic.
Thanks, Ange. That's great to hear. And it's certainly something that will carry with you. With each move, the Pinnacle community will be wherever you are in Australia, pretty much. So it's really heartening to know that, as your career and your life takes you on different journeys into different places, there's always people that we can reach out to in the community, which is wonderful. On a similar note, I just want to briefly touch on the mid-year videos that you send to your donors or the partner organizations. I wonder whether there might be a similar theme where you're like, this feels a little clunky to start with, but is generally a really positive experience and an opportunity to connect with the people that have made the amazing changes to your life possible. I want to know what that experience was like. It probably isn't a long story, but maybe Maddie, did you have any tips to share on those mid-year videos and the best way to get them done, and whether you've had any positive feedback that you can share as well?
Yeah, that feels so long ago now, but I remember, it felt a bit daunting, kind of. I wanted to do it perfectly, and what I found is that when you're filming these videos, it's important to, before you start filming, just jot down, everything that you've experienced at uni and all the things you've learned and the different ways in which, you know, the scholarship has helped you. And then what I found really helpful was to just, you know, not sound too scripted, but kind of just have it to the side if you want to glance at it. But then really just speak from the heart, I think. It's once you remember that, you know, I was sending the video to the two incredible people that funded my scholarship, and it was a really nice thing to keep in mind that you're speaking to real people, and these people do care and they do want to know how they've helped you. So it does feel funny just speaking to a camera, but I think the important thing to have in my mind was that, you know, people, you know, are going to watch this and they do want to know, you know, how you've been going, how it's helped you. So just remembering that, I think is it makes it a lot easier. I think you don't just feel silly just, you know, doing a vlog about, you know, university, but it is actually, it was a really nice moment to kind of, you know, reflect on the journey so far. And yeah, I'd actually love to go back and watch mine now, I think, just to see how far I've come now, I guess. Yeah, it's good, like, time capsule of your journey. Yeah.
Thanks, Maddie. I think they're really good tips. Just, you know, think ahead of time about the things that, you know, you can really draw a line between the scholarship and your positive experiences, jot a couple of things down and really speak from the heart. Really good advice. Thank you. Now, finally, I wanted to quickly talk about self-care, you know, the inevitable challenges that uni and life will throw at you. And I want to hear from each of you about whether you have any advice for our incoming scholars. I know everyone is different, but it's always great to hear from different people about what they do when they're in a sticky spot, because it's always good to add more things to the toolbox, and uni can be a really long period of time sometimes. I think we got to add all the tools that we can. So I want to hear from each of you about the advice that you have for scholars about, yeah, what you do to get through those sticky spots, whether it's literally just content recommendations or particular things that you do, or, you know, appointments that you make or people that you speak to, what has got you through so far. Maybe we'll start with Darcy.
Yeah, honestly, so I've been taking uni part-time since around like 2019, I think. I sort of went, you know, down to 1 unit for a semester, and, you know, other semesters I've been doing like 4 units, so it's sort of been back and forth. I'm at a pretty steady 3 units at this point, but at the start especially. And over COVID, everything sort of moved from in-person to online, and it was kind of like in the middle of my uni sort of thing, like, you know, the start of my, like, me getting into uni. So I kind of had to basically get really good at scheduling. So these days, whenever I sign up for a class, I have, you know, my Google Calendar for all that stuff. I used to have an in-person, like a wall calendar, and I'd write out everything for the semester, all the due dates that I knew, all the class dates, all the lecture dates, that's sort of the work side of things. But the leisure time side of things is that I made sure that I'd leave myself, I think, a Friday or a Thursday absolutely free, and I cannot recommend that enough. Just make sure you have 1 day in a week where you have no classes or anything, and spend that day doing social stuff. Like, block it out as a day that you just hang out with your friends, because that's honestly what's kept me sane. Just having people who you can talk to, who are, you know, my friends are all uni friends because we complain about the same stuff, you know, crunch time and all that. But just having people who you can, like, get your head out of the books with a bit is really good, especially if you work as well. Just having like a set date where you do like anything other than working or studying is really useful, because sometimes it can kind of take over your life a bit. And it's pretty easy to let that sort of chew into your time, and then sort of next thing you know, it's like 3 months later and you haven't talked to anyone for ages, and it's like, whoa, okay. I feel really bad suddenly. The other thing is to like try to stay on top of things. Like, I know that I get really like stressed out when my projects pile up. So I like that's part of the scheduling thing. Like I just make sure that I know when everything's due. And I'm never surprised by a due date or anything. I never go, oh no, oh, there was something due today and I haven't done anything. Because I've always got a list that I can, check and be like, all right, okay, cool. But yeah, like I think my biggest recommendations are making sure you definitely have a period of free time for yourself, at least once a week. And yeah, just staying on top of stuff, really generic stuff, but it's what's worked for me. So hey, hopefully that helps someone.
Yeah, thanks, Darcy. I don't think you can go too wrong with going back to basics sometimes. And it's very true that in the chaos of uni and work and life, really having to carve out time is important, and you really got to carve it, but it's important. Whether it's a window of a half a day or a day, that's really great advice. Noah, do you have anything to share by way of advice for our scholars?
Look, I'll try. I don't think I'll say anything revolutionary, but I think it's always good to reiterate the basics. So I think my main thing is therapy. I think you should be in therapy all the time. And I think it's also really good to have a good therapist to, for the good times and the bad. So be ahead of the game, increase your resilience when you're feeling good so that when a hard time comes, you have a bit of reserve. I think having a therapist is just life-changing. And I know it helped me through really hard times. So I came out through my postgrad study and it was really hard. And I think therapy really helped. Something that med school drummed into us and I actually think was really true is have a good GP, have a regular good GP who knows you so that when you get into a sticky point or a crisis, it's a lot easier to then go to someone who knows you or you have a bit of rapport with and say, actually, something's come up. Can I discuss that, rather than just going to a new random person then? I think something I will say is mental health medications like, anxiety or depression medications have a lot of negative stigma. I think, discuss it with your GP, but know that it's an option and it can be something that changes your life for the better. Yeah, I think, balance, social life, really important. I think my challenge was always having too many hobbies and too many fun things. Like I loved all the things. And I think balance is really important, whether that's one day off a week or whether that's, having a self-date night once a month or just kind of whatever personally works for you. Really try and have balance, invest in yourself, either, whether that's therapy, having a GP or having hobbies. Prioritize yourself and prioritize self-care and balance so that you can be your best self for others and for your study and for you. So yeah. And also believe in yourself, I think is really important, and kind of embrace all the opportunities that you have. There's so many through Pinnacle. There's the mentor, there's the opportunities there, and just, seize the day, I say.
Thanks, Noah. Yeah, I think we all know how expensive it is to build up a really supportive care network. And that is one of the most life-changing things that I experienced from the financial part of my scholarship, was being able to pay for a therapist, being able to pay for a gap when you go to the GP. If you ever had to get glasses, I wore my Pinnacle glasses for like 7 years, it's Maddie's got them on, I cannot reiterate what you said enough, Noah, that those supports are really important, and that this is a really incredible opportunity for you as at the start of your journeys to really start to build those up around you and build those reserves. Like Noah said, couldn't have put it any better myself. Thank you for sharing. And what wisdom do you have to share for our incoming scholars about self-care and overcoming some of the challenges that will arise?
Yeah, I'll reiterate what Noah said. When I was moving, I did not have a GP in Adelaide. I did not have a psychologist. And when things went terribly, things went terribly. So yeah, I would recommend, if you are moving particularly, having a look, I think there are a few lists online of GPs that are queer friendly. I don't know, don't quote me on that. And same with psychologists. Have a look at those lists, see maybe who might suit you. I know wait times are horrific at the moment. I think there's some online sources too, but yeah, I'll reiterate Noah's point that it's so important to have a network of professionals around you when you're in need or when you're not in need. Yeah, everything I've got to say is fairly generic, pretty boring. Scheduling, if you're moving, O Week is a great opportunity to suss out some things that might be of interest of you. Making some friends is so important. Yeah, I'm definitely going to be getting a bit more involved with some O Week stuff this year and some clubs just to sort of make some connections, just because it's so valuable and you don't realize how important it is until your friends are in Tassie and you're in Adelaide. That would be my suggestions.
Thanks, Ange. No, I think there's a lot of power in the reiteration that's occurring here, because, you know, we hear all these things all the time, but it sometimes takes a few people that you trust to say them, and you're like, okay, I've got it. I really need to focus on, you know, eat, sleep, carve out time, build up the supports, all that good stuff. It takes time, and the balance is always really hard to get, but the closer you get, the better you'll feel. Maddie, I will pass to you finally, and I'll just say to our other panelists, I know Laurie got an eye on the clock. If there's anything that our panelists want to add at the end to our incoming scholars, like anything, 30 seconds, 60 seconds, a quick wrap up, feel free, but no pressure. But I'll pass over to Maddie while you guys have a think.
Yeah, big yes to everything that's been said. I remember when I started uni, I didn't have a doctor, I didn't have a psychologist. And once I got both of those things, my life became so much better. One thing I've learned from constant psychology sessions is the importance of scheduling, exactly. And it's not just scheduling, okay, I'm going to work on this assignment for an hour, I'm going to do this for an hour. Because I have, I've got ADHD, I have incredible executive dysfunction. I have to schedule, all right, I'm going to have lunch here, and I'm going to, just do nothing and scroll on my phone for half an hour here so I'm not tempted later. Just actively scheduling out your day is important. Even if you have a free time, I'm on uni break at the moment, and honestly, if I don't schedule my day, I just sit on my phone all day, and it's not good for your health. So just scheduling a little bit of your day. Maybe you go for a walk, maybe you go outside, maybe you go see a movie or something. Just make sure you're scheduling your studies, but also some fun stuff for free time, because that's really important.
Thanks, Maddie. All right, any last words that any of our panelists wanted to add? I know you've already been mined for all of your wisdom, but if there's anything you wanted to add, Noah, go for it.
So I guess the only thing I'll add and probably reiterate is, I know I said to be mindful and intentional about your decisions, but I would say have a very low threshold for being your fiercest, best self. Like we create the future that we're going to inhabit, and I think we're all standing on the shoulders of giants, and we have to acknowledge that privilege, but also we are on the periphery of creating the future. So I think just have a low threshold for being your fiercest, most incredible self, and know that it's amazing, and authenticity will never go out of style. So just embrace the day and just push the envelope, I say. Yeah.
Thanks, Noah. Darcy, over to you.
Honestly, I have to say, at the end of the day, have a good time. I'm really looking forward to meeting all the new scholars online, at least in the case of people in anywhere other than WA, but in person to all the new WA scholars. And honestly, to everyone, good luck with this semester. We're going to get through it.
All right. Well, thank you to each of our panelists so much for taking time on a Sunday to share all of your experiences with our incoming scholars. It's hugely beneficial. I know you all know from your own experiences how important it is to hear from others. So thank you for paying that forwards. Thank you for being here. And I will pass back over now to Paula and Laura for the rest of the day. Thank you so much.
Beautiful.
Now, just before you jump off, Caitlin, do you have any, as an alumni yourself and someone who's stayed involved with Pinnacle, what tips or advice would you give to our incoming scholars? You've done a fantastic job of moderating, but we have not heard very much from you.
I thought I was talking too much, if anything. Look, all I can say is that to me, the standout from my entire experience with Pinnacle is the value of community, and it's been touched on so many times in this session, but Pinnacle will always be here for you. There are people throughout the foundation that will add so much richness and diversity and just like love and care to your lives, and you deserve that, and we're all here for each other, and I just really hope that you can seize it with both hands and just make the most of it. But I know you're all going to have a fabulous experience, and I'm just looking forward to meeting as many of you as possible, and a huge congratulations from me.
Thank you, Caitlin. Paula, shall I pass back to you to fill us in on what we do next?
Sure. Thank you, everybody. You were all so wonderful. And we're so happy to have you as part of the Pinnacle family. We're now going to go and have lunch. So we have an hour's break. We'll be back at 1:50 Australian Eastern Daylight Savings Time. So refresh, and we'll see you soon. Thank you, everybody.
I'll be around for the next maybe 10 minutes. I'll stay on if people have any questions or anything you want that's come up this morning that you want to ask. But also feel free to go and have your lunch.